All right, Maher, we are live, my man. How are you?
Awesome, bro. Good, man. Good. How are you doing? Good to be with you.
Good. Yeah, we'll give a couple minutes for folks to stream in here. Hopefully, we got some folks on either LinkedIn or YouTube. But super excited. It was awesome talking last week, and then I was thinking, man, we could do this in front of people and really help out a lot of the job seekers out there. So I'm excited for it. But what Yeah, before we jump in, tell me a little bit more about the Maher world. You're out in California, yeah?
Yeah, I'm in Orange County, California, and been out here for about 10 years. So yeah, I'm kind of loving it with my family out here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you
How
got
about
to.
you? Where are you located?
So I'm in Pennsylvania.
I just came from Pennsylvania, so that's
Where
that's
at?
awesome. Philadelphia, actually.
There you go. Yeah, I'm outside there. I'm like in Amish country right now. So yeah, it's funny watching horse and buggies running around. But anyway, man, I wanted to take the time today to get folks on the line. Anybody who is watching in on this, the point of this webinar, if you will, is to help folks to better tell their story and think like a salesperson in this really, really challenging market where nobody is really giving you many looks when it comes to getting a job. If you're playing defense and you're just sending out applications to these websites or on LinkedIn, you're probably not going to get a lot of looks. And I think, that's part of the reason that you're here, Maher. So for this one, I want to go and break that down. We're going to do this thing live. For background on me, folks, I have been in the tech industry for about 15 years right now. I started in consulting, moved into sales engineering, into sales. What we're going to do is we're going to break down something with Maher, who's in solutions engineering. We're going to talk about that role. But this should be applicable for anybody that's actually going out and looking for a full-time job, trying to change careers, or even change careers within an existing company. So with that said, Maher, let's get a little background on you, where you're at right now, and just a better understanding of that, because I think this will be relevant for anybody that's in this kind of career switch situation. Hit us with it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, Rue, I am married to my wife Jen. We have 3 kids, and it's been awesome being out here in California and just our life here. Recently it's kind of silly, but I hung up my jujitsu gi, and I picked up pickleball. I got Josephine and Martha, kicking my butt on the court over here. My hammies are sore right now as I'm standing here talking to you.
You picked you pulled up an old man sport over the over the jujitsu, huh?
Dude, these guys can move. So, you gotta be on your A game up here, But in all seriousness, about me, I love people. I love tech. I'm a systems guy. 3 years ago, I started my own consulting company. I picked up cloud engineering. I learned DevOps, picked up a few languages, coding languages, and I started helping companies solve unique problems. I love doing that because I'm a third solution, third option approach person. What I mean by that, sometimes when you're in a situation, you can only see 2 solutions. So I love to come in and kind of say, hey, there's this third option. And in all honesty, a lot of times it really helps you make the best decision in a situation. But through that, as I'm helping these clients kind of, migrate from on-premise servers to the cloud, I found myself, spending a lot of time in tech. And anybody that knows me knows I love being with people. And so I started searching, like, what does it look like? What does the next step look like for me? And that's where I stumbled on solution engineering. And I joined the pre-sales academy and went through that and got trained as a solution engineer. But since then, man, it's tough out there. I mean, what used to work in the past does not work today when you're trying to find a role. And so I'm out here networking. I don't have the pre-sales network. And so I'm networking my butt off, but it is a struggle.
Yeah. Oh man, it is a completely different market than when we started the pre-sales collective and the pre-sales academy program specifically. So you got to get on that like sort of hunter mentality. So we're going to talk about that a little bit today. Thank you for sharing the background and specifically just some of the challenges right now in the market, especially if you don't know folks in the industry. Networking can be difficult. So I think to start things off, let's go and I kind of want to get a little bit more of a background on you, the roles you're looking for. And then what we'll do is I'll pull up the light board here. We'll talk about this. We'll whiteboard out some things that'll help folks to better tell their story and better get connected with the folks that can ultimately make a decision to hire. So I pulled up your LinkedIn profile and I wanted to share that up on screen, and then was hoping you could kind of just run us through a little bit of that and probably your resume a little bit as well. So I'll do that. I've got your LinkedIn profile here. And it looks like Google Cloud certified, like see that right from the top of it. Great. Nice, quick, clean about section, cloud architect, solutions engineer. This is typically how I'm going to go through it as a hiring manager. If you ever reached out to me, I'm just going to skim. So I see consultant, cloud. Okay, that's good. Like my technical check marks are getting done. I see sales engineer from Pre-Sales Academy. Great. Organizational management consultant. This is good. I'm also seeing like, okay, you can understand change management, that type of thing. Sales, great experience for a sales engineer. And so I've got like a general idea of you right now. I'm thinking, okay, consultant / sales engineer / techie / sales. Like I've got a little bit of an idea, an image in my brain. Is that kind of what you were looking for in the LinkedIn profile?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you look at the background; it's unique. It has a lot of different, places that I've kind of parked myself for a while, and it's just I think when a hiring manager looks at that, sometimes they say, well, what is this person up to? What is this person looking for? And sometimes with all the requests that they have today for a job, they don't have time to look at unique people. They might just go for the guy that just has all the SE experience, and it's like it's just easier to go with that guy. Let me go
Yeah.
with that guy.
No, you're so right. It's got to be right now. We've got so much time. We have so little time that we're focused on what is the easy hire, and it's really difficult to kind of put that together for folks. And when I do this session for other folks, I'd say, a resume in general and a LinkedIn profile, it's kind of like a garage sale. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that from the perspective of there's so much gold at garage sales. There's so much great stuff at a garage sale, but usually you got to pick through everything there in order to figure out what is that gold? What is the real value to me, the employer? So you got to do that searching. You got to do that digging around for the gold. So now what I want to do is I want to talk about how we can go and remove all the good stuff and then put that directly in the front of a hiring manager or recruiter. So I want to do a little exercise with you, and we're going to go through just kind of what is our audience looking for. So I'm going to share a little bit bigger screen here. And we're going to start with the number one rule of sales, or selling yourself in this case. And that is to really understand your audience. So for us, we're looking at audience as sort of two different roles. You've got to ultimately get the hiring manager interested. But before you do that, you probably got to get through the recruiter. So we'll just do a little bit of spitballing here. What do you think are some of the things that hiring manager is looking for when they're looking for an SE candidate?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're looking for someone who's techie because they want them to be an expert in the field.
Yeah,
Uh, they're obviously looking for sales, and I think within sales, there's different, someone who can be in front of people, someone who's comfortable, someone who's
yeah.
confident.
Confidence, presence, presentation skills. Yeah. Yeah, you've got it spot on. And then, one of the things that you talked about was one of the challenges was the previous experience, right? Not having the SE title before to be able to weigh on or, lean on that. For folks that are listening in, what are some of the other things that you think a hiring manager would be interested in for a solution engineer? Anything else that comes to mind, drop them in there. Also, for anybody else that's dialed in, if you have questions as we're going through here, just drop them in the chat, because we're going to do a breakdown with Maher, and then we're also going to go and answer questions that come in ad hoc in terms of anything when it comes to this job search, whether it's putting together your resume, networking on LinkedIn, you name it. Okay, so we've got all of these things. And then when you're thinking about, great one, I got another one here, hands-on experience was one that came in. Thank you for folks that are adding this in. Yes, hands-on experience for sure. Because if you're the one that's just been in the back seat, you haven't spent a lot of time actually working with customers, it's going to be less compelling. Oh, Frank, I love this. Relationship building. Yes. Probably could fit that under that sales skill, but super helpful. Oh man, Cassie, I love this one. Drive to learn. Curiosity is my favorite thing to hire for. Great stuff. What else we got? Ability to think on the fly. Improv skills. Melanie, I love this. I do a little improv for sales kickoffs and other things. So you're speaking close to my heart. Great stuff. I love this stuff coming in here. So yeah, these are all those skills that folks are looking for, the hiring managers want to see in a candidate. And so the hiring manager is looking for these things. Recruiters typically are looking for similar things, but ultimately what's on a recruiter's mind is a little bit different. And I want to explain this because I'm not sure everybody understands the situation that a recruiter is in. They basically are getting this barrage of applications coming into them. And their job is to kind of filter the best probability candidates so that they don't send everything over to the hiring manager. Because remember, this person has a full-time job that is not recruiting, and they've got to manage the whole team. So what they're more concerned with is, how can I make sure I'm a partner of the hiring manager and I'm sending them sort of high quality leads, high quality candidates? Because if they send too many that aren't great candidates, now this relationship is strained. You think about it, it's sort of like a client service relationship where if you keep giving not great quality to your hiring manager, they're not going to want to continue to do business with you. So this recruiter, you got to think about it from their perspective. They want maybe not necessarily the best candidate, but the candidate that is going to fit the best. Whereas a hiring manager might be a little bit more apt to take risk with candidates. Recruiters might be thinking, I'm not sure if I'm comfortable putting that candidate in, even if they're not qualified. So it's a little bit different type of mindset. We got some other ones that came in here in terms of more skills. Danielle, I love this, presentation skills. And had another one come in, objection handling. Awesome, Ron. Thank you for that. Great stuff. Just all of this stuff is going to be great for you regardless of the role you're looking for. So the exercise that you all at home can do is, before you start to think about what to put on your resume, what to put on your note to a hiring manager, do this exercise where you think, what is everything that person wants? And you can look in the job description, but typically the job description is made years ago. They copied and pasted it, and it's just very different from the reality on the ground. So if you do this, it's the very first step in getting to know what is in the head of your hiring manager. You want to get completely in the head of them so that when you talk to them, you are speaking their language. Oh, we got another one here, trusted advisor from Jersey. We've got recruiter is an SE of sorts too. He or she wants to be a trusted advisor to the hiring manager. Yes, Melanie, fantastic. This is the recruiter is the SE, is the hiring manager's SE. I love that. Fantastic. All right, so we've got a general idea here, Maher, of some of the key skills, but this is a lot, right? And if you went to a hiring manager and you said, hey, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of the skills that you need, they'd probably say, okay, I'm not going to read this. You know, it's sort of, I put a post on LinkedIn the other day. I said, it's like the Cheesecake Factory where there's plenty of good stuff. There's plenty of gold, but it's buried in a bunch of other stuff that you don't want to look at. So we are going to make that a little bit easier for folks. So the first thing I want to do, Maher, is I want to pull up your resume because I really like how you did this. And we'll share that up on screen. And I want to walk us through a little bit about some of that experience. We don't have to talk too much on it, but I think it was a really good way to organize things. So I will have that up on screen for us. This is your LinkedIn profile, and then you've got a Hunter profile as well. And I'll zoom in over here on the resume. For folks on the line, if you look at this, when I first go to this resume, there immediately are three things that stick out to me. It's this cloud solutions consulting, leadership, and demos and presentations. What Maher did here, which I love, is you listed your work experience down at the bottom. And this is something that I teach with the Pre-Sales Academy, but also with anyone that's job seeking. There's two ways you can do a resume. The first way you can do a resume is you can list out your experience in chronological order. That's very applicable if you're trying to just continue along the same path that you've been on. So you're an SE and you want to move up to senior SE, and you want to move up to manager of SEs or principal SE, and you want to move up to the VP of SEs, and you're continuing in this linear path. That is probably not the majority of the people that are listening to this. You're moving from cloud consulting, maybe over to sales engineering, or heck, we've had some teachers over here and they want to move over to this spot and move up. And so you're doing this dance of going all over the place. And it's really hard for me as the hiring manager to say, I don't know what this person is all about. So Maher, what you did, which was awesome, is you just listed that out in this resume for me. And now I know this guy's about cloud solutions consulting, leadership, demos, and presentations. Now, if you're open to a little feedback on that, of those ones, what do you think is the most important of those three?
I mean, I want to say demos and presentation, but I actually would say leadership. You know, because I think about being a new SE in a space, and people are looking at you as a noob, and you don't know anything. But if you're able to kind of pick up and self-motivate and just take ownership of what you're doing, I think that's a huge asset to being a new hire, because that onboarding process can be so long. So if you can help cut it down for an AE or a hiring manager, I think that's incredible.
I love that answer. I love that answer because I was thinking demos and presentations too, and that's my checkbox answer. And then from there, you're right. The thing I think that really stands out between someone who is I'll say, standard candidate and an excellent candidate is those leadership skills. In fact, that's it's the core of my methodology of alpha pre-sales. It's called alpha pre-sales because it's about leadership. Based on that, I really like what you said, because I think you can take that resume and lead with demos and presentations, or even leadership. And you could kind of do this two ways. And I don't think there's a right or wrong way. Demos and presentations sort of answers the mail. Like, it's the immediate, hey, I'm qualified, and now I'm curious, and I go into leadership. If you went the other way, though, you might be able to lead with leadership. And I'm thinking to myself, well, why do I need that? And then I read it and I'm like, this person is actually very well qualified. So I think you could hit it either way. Maybe you play around with it, send out a couple in the sales language. You could A/B split test that. But you can do it however you want. But I think that's great. And I think you should bring that to the top, because that's the immediate thing that sort of checks the box. And now I'm interested in you some more.
I love that. Yeah, absolutely. I'll definitely do that.
All right. So getting back to, let's see. Yeah, let's go back to the resume real quick. You've got a good number of experience in here. You've got relevant skills. There was also one that you set up, which I thought was really cool. It's having a website-based resume. And here you hit me right with the very top around technical skills. So I thought that was really, really well done. Quick summary, really deep in terms of technical experience. And then you've got that sales experience as well. So I think this is well done. I think you're telling your story fairly well in terms of making it clear and concise. Now, we're going to go and switch back to sort of an exercise here. And I'm going to do this again on the big screen. Let's see. All right. So let's see. I got a question here. I'm ask is, what role are you looking for? Sales engineer or solutions engineer? They're different roles in my mind. That is okay. Great question here. So I want to address this real quick because this will be relevant for any role that we're looking at. You're looking for a sales engineer or a solutions engineer role. Maher, it sounds like, based on what you said about you being interested in the sales, the people side, you would be more focused on the sales side. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And then this is one where there's this big debate around pre-sales. Is it pre-sales? Is it solutions engineering or sales engineering or solutions consulting? Yeah, solutions engineer can be a sort of a loaded title where it can mean post-sales type support. It could mean potentially consulting type of roles. It can also mean sales engineering, but you just didn't want to have the term sales in it. Or, maybe you're part of the solutions team. So I've heard a lot of different things here, but this is a great question from whoever put this up on here. What we're talking about is that more sales-focused sales engineer or solutions engineer. And I think the difference is between that and the solutions engineer role is you will probably need more customer-facing front-end sales type of experience. And based on that, we'll dial up or dial down the resume and our talk track, if you will, about ourselves based on that. So there's an exercise I do, and I'm going to draw this out graphically for you because we already did step one, which is to understand your audience. So I'm going to create a category over here, and we're going to have audience needs. And I highly recommend folks actually do this. And what you want to do is you want to take whatever role you are looking at and list out the top 3 or 4 key skills that they're looking for. So we had a bunch of those listed out, but I'm going to list out a few of them. Some of the ones that we landed on for sure were tech skills. We had sales skills, and there were a lot of comments in there on skills that I would kind of bucket into that sales skills category. For example, Danielle had mentioned presentation skills. Ron said objection handling. Let's see, thinking on the fly, Melanie, that was great. Jersey, trusted advisor. These are those sales type skills. So what you can do is you can kind of categorize things. So we're going to categorize a lot of those skills as sales skills. And then from there, having been in this experience for a while, in this field for a while, 2 things are really valuable from folks that are in the role. You have sort of these buyer skills, sort of understanding your audience. And I'll give you an example where, let's say you're selling an insurance product. If you have been in the insurance industry before, you have a huge advantage because you can speak the language of the people that you're selling to. So some of the best sales engineers I've ever seen have come directly from the industry. So that is one where I think buyer knowledge is a great skill to have. It's sort of an extra plus. And then the other one you could have is maybe you don't know the specific buyer, but yeah, you know the industry. And so these are probably related, but if I were to list them out, industry or product knowledge, these are the things where if you're selling, let's say you're trying to get a job at Salesforce. If you know Salesforce's product because you've implemented Salesforce's product, but you don't necessarily know how it gets implemented at each company, that's still an advantage for you. So that product knowledge is helpful because now you don't have to relearn that thing. Now, I'm listing these as audience needs because these would be the needs of someone that's hiring for different candidates in sales or solutions engineering. Now we've got here, you can break this out now and say, where do I stack up against these? So the way I like to think about it is there's sort of the typical candidate, and then there's Maher or you. And what you have here then is you can go through and say, okay, is the typical candidate going to have this skill? So you can create these checkboxes for everything. Is the typical sales solutions engineer candidate going to have tech skills? Probably. I think that's a reasonable assumption. Otherwise, they're probably not going to get in even past the recruiter. Are they going to have sales skills? Probably. Some of them may have even had previous sales engineering experience, in which case it's, a double check mark, if you will. Some of them may have buyer experience, but a lot of them probably won't. I'd say this is way more rare than the other two skills. These are a little bit easier to find. Definitely one of them, harder to get. Two of them, really hard to get. Three where they know the buyer. So I'd say the typical candidate does not have buyer experience. And I would also say the typical candidate probably doesn't have industry or product experience. There's a couple of industries that are a little bit different there. For example, I see in the cybersecurity industry, a lot of folks will get hired out of that, like being in that role previously. And then they may have this, but a lot of times this is a gap as well. So I'm bringing this up because this is how every hiring manager is going to look at you. They're going to basically compare you to, does Maher look like the average person that I'm used to looking at? And if you can check the box on, yes, he looks like that, then it allows you to differentiate. So now, Maher, let's go through this. Do you have tech skills?
Yeah, I do.
A lot of them. It's great.
Yeah,
Do you have sales skills?
I do. Yeah, I have a sales background.
All right. Now, for buyer and industry, are there any specific industries or companies that you're looking for, or are you open to all of them?
I mean, being new to the space, I'm open to all of them.
Yeah.
Obviously, I've spent some time in different categories for sure.
Yeah, and I'll see a lot of that where I worked with another SC who had deep experience in claims and insurance. Now, he said he's open to anything, and I said, that's great. So then if you're open to whatever, you're not going to check the box on buyer or industry necessarily, but if you're applying to a company that sells into the insurance industry, then you'll check that box. And so what that does is that gives you a leg up in comparison to the typical candidate. So this is helpful for you to see, okay, put yourself in the mind of the hiring manager. If you were to do that, Maher, and you said, if I'm a hiring manager, how do I stack up against the typical candidate? Based on this, what do you think?
It's very typical.
There you go.
Yeah.
So based on that, you on paper should be getting looks. However, it might be that folks on the line don't have the tech skills. So what do you do when you don't have the tech skills? Well, there's several things. Number one, I've seen folks go out and get the certifications and things like that. I'm not saying not to do that. However, a lot of times this gap is a very large gap to fill. For example, if you're trying to get into cybersecurity and you've never done cybersecurity, or you're trying to get into cloud and you've never done cloud, to get the certifications that you need in order to fill this box and fill it comfortably enough for you, it may be difficult. So the other avenue you might pursue is trying to get a solutions engineering role that requires much less of the tech. Giving an example, there's a lot of companies that are hiring for social media type products. You might want to go and pursue that, even though they're going to need a lot of integrations and tech connections to other things. You might have to look into that. A lot of people think marketing, a lot less techy. Not necessarily, because you're usually plugging into sales and marketing, other things where there's a lot of automation. So you've got to find that. But for example, if you're looking for an applicant tracking system or something else that's HR related, maybe it has to plug into your ERP. That's a different story. But you want to start looking for these roles where you basically want to decide, do I want to compete against this typical candidate? Do I want to compete against him? Do I want to go head to head, if you will? Or do I want to change the game and go for something where the number one requirement is, let's say, HR experience. And if you're an HR person and you've got tons of experience in HR, but you have no tech experience, you want to look for the roles where it requires, let's say, sales experience and HR experience, because those are the two that you have. And now you're equal with the competition. So if you're missing tech or you're missing sales, you want to do this cost benefit analysis and say, can I learn it? And can I learn it quick enough to get a job? Because if you spend a year learning tech, you can learn tech, but that's a year that you're not employed right now. So this is why this exercise is incredibly helpful for folks to take a look at, where do I really stack up? Where is my weakness? And now we're going to talk a little bit about strength. If there's questions on the line on this topic, please drop them in the chat. Otherwise, Maher, now we're going to talk about, okay, you're typical, but actually, I think you're way above typical. And we're going to talk about how we can articulate that. Chris, thank you so much. Great event. I appreciate it. Tim, I love this. Tim Evers, lead with leadership and demo. Yeah, I love that. It's the leadership is so key for especially if we're looking for that sales focused or the pre-invoice solution engineer, Tim. Okay, so now, Maher, as we're looking at this and knowing that you stack up fairly well against the typical candidate, now we want to talk about, okay, what's over the top for Maher? And we go back to your resume here. I'm going to take a look at that. Tell me a little bit more about this Rising Culture Consulting.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in the process of transitioning into tech, I saw the cloud industry kind of growing exponentially, and I said, this is perfect. So I went after that cloud architect professional certification. I learned DevOps. I picked up the coding languages, JavaScript and Python. And actually, what you're looking at right there is a website that I created with HTML, CSS, and on the back end, this website is completely supported with a Google Cloud infrastructure. It's got databases, it's got APIs. At the top, if you look at it, there's a visitor counter. Every time you come in, that number changes, and the only way you can do that is having APIs and integration between the HTML and the cloud infrastructure on the back. So through getting ready for Rising Culture and helping companies migrate, I completed this project just to kind of put what I had learned as a cloud engineer, cloud architect into real life. And in doing that, that's when you really learn what you're doing, because I have to maintain that website and the cloud infrastructure. And because of that, I'm able now to help companies migrate from the on-premise servers to the cloud, or find solutions where they're a little bit more secure with their privacy and the least privilege kind of theme their framework. So that's a little bit about what I've done with Rising Culture there.
Man, you have to tell that story. That is just the fact that you built this yourself. Like, that's the proof right there. Hey, do you want to know what I've done? Like, just go check out the website. I built it myself. Oh man, it is an excellent story, because people will go and list out their skills, and a lot of them are usually right, but people will add skills, and then if you ask them a question like, oh, so tell me about JavaScript, it's like, well, I could tell you, or you could just go to my website and look at it. It's like, okay, ultimate mic drop confidence move right there. So I love that, man, and I think that's such a good skill, and it also just shows that you're a doer. And when I'm thinking about this in terms of how do you differentiate as an individual, when you're thinking about a typical sales engineering hire, one of the things that we often get beat up on, and I hear this a lot because I do training for a living, is a lot of sales engineers will be good at being kind of when they're told what to do. However, what I like what you did there is you took on sort of an entrepreneurial role. In fact, yeah, you're part founder of this company. You built this yourself. And so there's the ability to have that passion and that sort of entrepreneurial spirit where I think that is a huge asset to any team. And so I would consider that sort of one of your extras, your, go above and beyond is, let's call it entrepreneurial. Oh, wow, that's a tough word to spell.
Don't ask me how to spell it.
I think I did it right. Entrepreneurial juice, if you will. So you want to think about some of these things. And typically when you're thinking about the differentiators, you don't want to think necessarily, okay, what are some of the things that I did in the past? Like the tendency is going to be to just go back to your past experience and just spew it on the hiring manager. But you want to think like, what is the actual problem that a lot of hiring managers have? And I'll tell you, it's the biggest pain in the butt is how long it takes to onboard people. And like the fact that you have to do a lot of babysitting. Like as a hiring manager, and when you onboard someone, for solution engineers especially, it's going to take you probably 6 months minimum before you're productive. So there's this like babysitting stage where it's, okay, come to this meeting with me. Okay, what questions do you have? And so you're sort of a drag on the team for a while. And that's okay because we know that you're going to have huge upside. Like that's part of going through this process. It's so that we hire you so that you can be successful later on. But initially, it's a little bit of a drain. So what I think you're bringing to the table with this entrepreneurial spirit and the fact that you're already qualified is you could go to a hiring manager and say, hey, I know you're looking for someone with tech skills and sales skills. I have all of those. Also, I just wanted to mention that I've done work and actually been with a company that started this where I have worked with clients to help them move from on-premises infrastructure into GCP. And in that process of building this out, I've had to do a lot of initiatives and entrepreneurial things myself. So if your typical candidate is good at being told what to do, I'm kind of the candidate that goes and looks for work to do. And if you came to me and said that, I'd be like, ooh, that's the person I want. The one that I don't have to babysit. The one that's less likely to just kind of sit and be told. Because I hear that a lot. SE managers want their SEs to be the CEO of their own business, to take initiative, to take ownership. And I think that is clearly demonstrated with Rising Culture Consulting. So that's sort of your plus one, if you will, on top of the typical candidate. And that's kind of the message that you want to send. You want to say, hey, this is what you're normally looking at, but this is what I offer. So great stuff on that. I'm really glad you brought us through a little bit more experience on that. All right, we'll pull up for a second. Questions from folks on the line. Because next what we'll do is we'll talk a little bit about how you can message this to potential hiring managers. All right. All right, so when you do this outreach, there's a few LinkedIn strategies, and I can't get into all of them with the time that we have, but I wanted to give people a little bit more confidence about doing outreach. So as mentioned, there's a couple ways to do this. The first is to apply to positions online on LinkedIn, let's say, or on the company website. And we all know how that goes. That goes into this black hole, right? You never hear back from anything.
Yeah.
So that's just like, I'm sure you've got it. Have you been sending out applications, I imagine, and not getting responses back?
Absolutely, man. And trying to tailor each one, trying to get creative with like the length of subject line with the in-mail stuff. I've even like resorted to jokes, and then like hit the punchline in the actual message part. Like, yeah, for sure.
All right. Yeah, I've seen that a lot. For folks on the line, if you have specific questions or challenges on this section, please drop them in because we're going to get into how do you do an outbound LinkedIn message. And this is going to be a little bit of a trial and error experience, but this is sort of like sales 101. So anybody who's been a sales rep before knows, how uncomfortable and difficult this is because you're competing for attention with folks. So as we go and we think about this, you want to think about it as if you're sort of delivering a gift to your hiring manager. And that gift needs to be a very clear, very concise, very short story about why you can help them. So the thing that most folks do is they talk about me, me, me. And it's, I've done this, I've done that, I have a lot of experience, I've done sales, whatever. And you can switch that with a very slight tweak to the intro in your message. And so what I typically do is I will, let's say I'm sending an email to a hiring manager. I would go on, I would do a little bit of research. Let's say it's, I don't know, Splunk. And I would go on LinkedIn and I would look for if Splunk is hiring sales engineers. And if they are, let's say it's a sales engineer in London, and then I look up the chain and I see it's London and there's a hiring manager above that and he's in London and he's the RVP of solutions architects at in London or for the UK. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe that's the guy. You can go direct to him. You can go to the recruiter. Maybe it's somebody else. It's a lady that's over all of EMEA. You can figure out sort of who might be involved in this. And then you've got a couple of options. You either go direct or you take a more indirect approach. And we'll talk a little bit about how both of those would look. If, let's say, I identify, this is Sally over here. She's the RVP of SAs in the UK, and I'm in London, and I'm looking for this job at Splunk. I would probably send a message that says something like, "Hi, Sally. I imagine you're looking for candidates with both sales experience, technical experience, and whatever else you think that she is looking for. I think just leading with sales experience and technical experience is probably enough." Once you do that, Sally reads it and says, yes, that's exactly what I'm looking for. This guy is speaking my language, and now I'm listening to you. Versus when you say, "Hi, Sally, I've done this, 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 and this." I don't even know who you are, and I don't care. So it's first meeting the person where they are. So it's meet where they are. That's step one. Then you can relate your experience to that role. Then, if you have a differentiator like Maher, I think you do here in terms of that entrepreneurial gusto, however you want to package that, but say maybe you're probably used to solution engineers that are great at technical skills and getting things done. I am the type where if you don't have work for me, I will go find the right work, or whatever it is, however you want to message that. I think, gosh, I can't remember if it was Cassie or somebody else said, curiosity, a drive to learn. Cassie said that what we're looking for. That is huge. If you hit me with, "I'm a naturally curious person," I would immediately be interested because that's my number one criteria for hiring for folks. Because if they're curious, there's that drive. And that's the thing I can't teach. So this is sort of your like plus one if you have one, or you're like, why am I different? And then the last thing is a call to action. Now, when you're doing this, the call to action can be a number of things. And so that's where I'm going to leave this open-ended for folks, because you can decide how direct you want to go. A call to action, maybe if you're going direct to Sally, is, "Hey, can you take a look at my resume? And if you're interested, I'd love to set up a meeting or maybe go through your recruiter," whatever your process is, right? Like give it back to them. You may go ask someone, you want to ask someone for something that they can give. Like maybe an RVP of solution architects in the UK can hire or talk to someone directly. Maybe they've got to go through the recruiter. You don't really know. It's probably dependent on each one. But you can have that call to action be different. You may also want to go and you can take a slightly more indirect approach. If you're going to do this, I do not recommend being vague. This is probably the biggest thing that I see folks mess up, is they come to me and they'll say, oh, hey, I wanted to connect. And I don't know what that means. I don't know what you want out of me. Or can we hop on a call? I want to pick your brain. I don't know what pick my brain means. I don't know what I can do. I don't know if I can help you. I don't know how long it's going to take. I don't know how much time is invested. I don't know if you're trying to sell me something. I have no clue. So you want to be clear, but you can be less direct if you want. And if you want to go less direct, this is what that would look like. Hi, Sally. You're probably looking for sales engineers that have sales experience and technical experience. I have those two things, and I think I bring something unique to the table in terms of my entrepreneurial spirit. I would like to know if you could take a look at my resume and let me know if there are any gaps. I have not been getting the looks that I would like. I often send out applications and I don't hear anything back. From your perspective, I'd like to know if there's something I can fix. Now Sally knows, all right, I'm gonna look at this. I'm just gonna tell them, yeah, Maher, you don't have security experience. And that's why you're not getting looks at a place like Splunk. Now that's a clear thing. But what you do with that indirect is now Sally doesn't feel like you're trying to sell her. You're just asking for information. And Sally might be like, man, I really like this guy. Like maybe I'm going to talk to him and I'm going to feel it out and see if maybe I want to hire. So that's a little bit more of the indirect approach. Whatever approach you take, it is super important to be clear with what you want. Make it a clear ask. If you're networking, do not say networking. Say what you want. And I'm all for being a little bit vulnerable. And I don't mean that in the corny way, but people can actually relate to you when you say things like, hey, I'm sending out applications and nobody's responding. Or I'm sending out applications and I feel like it's a black hole. Everyone can relate to that. And so when you open yourself up to that and you say, like, this is the experience that I'm going through, people may even feel a little bit guilty or a little bit empathetic to your situation and they'll want to help. And so when people tell me that, I'm a little bit more apt to do it. Like, hey, I think I'm qualified. I might not be. I think I'm doing something wrong, because if I was doing something right, I'd probably be getting looks. So can you just tell me blatantly what I'm doing wrong or what I'm doing right? And so you can get a little bit better feedback there. So these are a couple of those approaches. And I'll ask for folks on the line additional questions on this. And as we're waiting for any responses to come in, Maher, any questions that you have on this?
Absolutely. So let's say I would be more of a direct person and creating that message.
Mm-hmm.
So I would do that. What would be the thing that I could share, like out of what you've seen, my LinkedIn profile, my Hunter profile, those things? What would be best for me to share and ask, and the question that I would ask a hiring manager?
Okay. So what I would share is what is most easy to consume. So if you share your Hunter profile, I have to go digging. It's sort of the garage sale, if you will, right?
Yeah.
So sharing the Hunter profile, I probably wouldn't do. And for folks that don't know what that is, it's basically a collection of just information about you. But I have to now go dig. I have to watch your videos. I have to do other things. So I probably wouldn't do that. I would probably share my resume because most people are familiar with it and it's a quick hit. Or you may even go and just tease and say, hey, take a look at my LinkedIn profile. If you think it's strong or weak, or I would love to get your first perception of what you think, if you think I would be a qualified candidate or not. That's one that would be, say, make it easy, is make it something where they can immediately do it. It's very clear and it's not going to take them a lot of time. Because my thing is, I don't want to waste time. If you just say, here's my LinkedIn profile, I want to know how to update it, If you can just text back what those things are, great. So that would be like my call to action. See if you're ready to go for the goal, to go for the job or not. If you're looking to go for the job, I would, for example, like with Sally, I would say, hey, are you open to doing something? Or I may even ask, if you think I'm qualified, could you please tell me the best way to approach doing this or approach applying? Is it through a referral, talking to someone, going direct to the recruiter? I would appreciate your thoughts on this. That would be one if I'm going direct to Sally for a specific role. If I'm going to a recruiter, I would probably go to them and say the very similar message. You're probably looking at candidates that require sales skills and tech skills. I have both of those. I also have experience with XYZ. If you're open to this, I would love to talk to you, or I'd love to hear about the process, because I know if I submit this online, it's probably going to go into a black hole. Would just love to know how long this process takes, or if you're still even hiring, right? Like, figure out what you want and start a conversation there, and then go for what you're looking for. Were there any other questions that you had on that?
No, I mean, that's super helpful, because what I have been doing is sharing my hunter profile. And I think you're absolutely right. It's too much information. People
Yeah.
don't know me. They're not going to commit that amount of time not knowing me. Even though it might be a great thing to represent all that I have, I feel like, hearing you now, I feel like it's a throw up almost on
Yeah.
them. And they're like, it's too much.
Yep. No, it's got to be short and quick. So we got another comment here from Justin. This is a great question that I want to, it's a great question because a lot of folks are going to feel this way. So Justin asks, how would you go on the approach? How would you go on the approach if you don't have something that'll instantly distinguish you from another candidate? And so if that's the case, let's say you don't have the tech experience and the sales experience. First off, I think everybody has something unique about them that is special. However, if you don't, I would just flat out say that you don't. And this sounds counterintuitive, but it is so self-aware that it is admirable. So this is what that would look like, Justin or anyone else who feels like they're not qualified. The first thing you do is you put together this thing and you figure out where you stand. And so you have your typical candidate, and then you have you. And if the typical candidate looks like this, and you look like this, and you're missing those two gaps, you go to that person and you say, hi, Sally, you're probably looking for someone that has these 3 skills. I only have one of them. I would need you to help me get up to speed on skill 2 and skill 3 if you were to hire me. I imagine that's going to be a lot of work for you. However, what I can bring to the table is I'm very eager to do this. I've done this before, learned a new skill, whatever it is that shows that you are a +1. But that is actually a great situation to be in, because you go in and you say, you're looking for this, you're looking for this, I don't have it. Now the person is like, wow, this guy knows exactly what I want, and he knows exactly where his gaps are. I'll tell you what's way harder as a hiring manager. When you think someone has all 3 of these because they put it on their resume, and then you hire them, and then you realize that they're way weaker than you thought they were. So what sucks about that situation is when you think about the progression of a person, if normally it's going to take them 6 months to get productive, I'm thinking I'm going to get them there in, let's say, 4 months because they've got all 3 of these check boxes. But actually, it's going to take me 8 months because they don't have all 3 of these. It just looks like it. Versus when Justin comes to me or somebody else comes to me and they say, I don't have this and I don't have this. I know that that's going to be 6 to 8, and I might be all right with that because now I know exactly what I'm dealing with, and I'm dealing with someone who's self-aware, who's going to be open to coaching, open to feedback, open to learning, versus a lot of people that think they know everything are not those types of people. So you may be at an advantage. My best advice for someone who thinks they're underqualified is to say that you're underqualified, because it's very likely that you're not. You will see on a resume that'll say, you need 7 years of experience. And you know what? People are getting hired with 2 years of experience because these numbers are ludicrous that they put on these job applications. Justin, thank you so much for that question. All right. We are getting close to the top of the hour, and I want to talk about a couple of options for folks that want to continue learning and going down this journey. So thing number one is, if you're going to do one thing, you got to put yourself out there. You got to take a shot. Gretzky has a comment that you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. You got to just start taking shots. You got to get out there. You got to ask people for time. You got to ask people to review your resume. You've got to ask for things, and you just have to do it. In addition to that, you do want to build your skills and you want to build your ability to communicate well. And for that, I've got a couple of things that might be of interest. First is, next week, two of my great friends here, Maddie Stremick and Yuji Higashi from Better Career, are putting together a webinar or a job search workshop. It's going to be on LinkedIn Live. I cannot say enough good things about these two individuals. They helped build the Pre-Sales Academy program. They've placed literally hundreds of people at jobs. I would highly recommend going to this workshop. Check it out. You'll learn plenty in the process. The other thing is, I am doing a webinar with Consensus. This is on November 15th. It is 11 o'clock Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, 9 Mountain. Now, this is sales focused. I don't do job search type stuff for a career. However, what I do is I train sales engineers to be more effective at sales engineering. And it's primarily through sales skills. The session that I will be doing is called Storytelling Without the Fluff. It is to communicate things clearly and concisely. That is happening November 15th. If you're interested in that, if you're in sales or you're in sales engineering, or you just want to learn a little bit more about storytelling and clear, concise communication, I would recommend that you check that out. I think that's all we had for today. But before we do a wrap up, I want to say, Maher, thank you for being the guide as we went through this. I don't think it would have been nearly as effective without having you being here kind of telling your story, because the goal of this was to help people on the line fish for themselves rather than need help with it. So thank you for doing this and taking the time. I super appreciate it.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate it. I think getting the breakdown and just even having it live and knowing that it's not just me in this process. It's a tough job market, and a lot of us are dealing with this. And so just to learn as a group and to have tools coming out of it, tangible things to utilize, I think, means the world. So I really appreciate your time, and it's indispensable to me. Thank you.
Awesome. Great. We got some comments coming in. Thank you, Danielle. Thank you, LinkedIn user. Anybody else? Yeah, great job, Maher. Love this. So thank you all for folks that joined up. You can always catch the recording afterwards, and let us know if you have questions. Take care, everyone.